Edgar TV.
So a question I often get asked is, are there any friends on the tour? And I don't think I could share with you a story that answers that any better than the story of Killarney a couple of years ago. So there I am, laying in the primetime bed, getting some primetime sleep, when Steve Hine comes round to pick me up to go down to the airport for our flight. He rings me, no answer. Knocks on the door, no answer. I am fast asleep. No way am I getting up. Steve waits around, text, voicemail, does everything that he possibly can other than come and shake me out of my bed. And then eventually decides I'm not getting up and it's time to go. He gets in his car, starts driving to the airport, when about 15, maybe 20 minutes or so later, when Steve's already a good chunk of the journey down the road, I wake up and I ring him in a mass panic. Steve, I'm awake, I've missed it. And well, he's already on his way. Now Steve, being the great guy he is, looked at the time and worked out that if they could make it, and decided that they was going to double back. They came back, making the risk of missing the flight themselves to come back to pick me up. I was relieved. I sat in the car, feeling a little bit silly, but I was relieved to be on my way down there. Happened that we actually made it with a little bit of time to spare, so we managed to grab some breakfast, not actually thinking that we needed to be at the flight before the scheduled time. It was only when Kevin went down and had a look when he went to get a newspaper and he saw final boarding for our flight that we ran to the plane itself. We needed to get a shuttle and we got over to the plane with seconds to spare. It was a very lucky escape. That day I must have been the happiest man in the world to ever be sat on a Ryanair flight. But we made it to Killarney and it was time for the darts. Now in those days there was only one ranking event, which was on the Sunday, and fate would have it that in the first round, Matthew Edgar versus Steve Hine. And I actually beat Steve this day, 6-5. And as fate would have it, this would be the game at the back end of the season that would actually cost Steve Hine a place at the World Championships. Now, later on that evening, as always, me and Steve went out, having a joke, having our usual sort of fun and games around the table, enjoying a nice evening meal. Which brings me to the moral of the story. The moral of the story was, Steve could have left me in bed. They didn't have to take that risk and potentially miss their flight. But they did, because they're friends. But for those 20 minutes when me and Steve played, we wasn't friends, and I cost him the place in the World Championships. And straight after, we was friends again. So when I get asked that question, are there any friends on tour? 100%. There are some great friends on tour. But for 20 minutes, I don't think there's any.
Edgar TV.